Okay, so here we are again with a little bit of time to look at how the mind is. The mind in Dzogchen and generally in Buddhism is the most important thing. Without the mind, there is no experience. The basis of the mind is what we call the ground or the source or the base. This source is always present with us. We have never left the source. We don't come out of it. The thing about the ground or the source or the base is that you can't say anything about it. It's not anywhere and it's not everywhere. Because as soon as you try to approach the basis of our presence through a concept, the concept itself distorts your ability to open to how it is. Concepts are, they're not bad, they're not wrong, they're not even misleading. What is misleading is the way in which we approach concepts. Concepts emerge from the ground. They are an aspect of illumination. Illumination arises as sound, as color, as rays of light, but also as concepts, as sensations, tastes, and so on. The concept is showing you the creativity of the ground. Every concept that we make use of, in the moment that it arises in the mind, it's just suddenly there and gone, arising and vanishing. When it arises, it doesn't come from somewhere. When it goes, it doesn't go anywhere. When I say this, I'm talking about the actuality, the direct display of what the concept is or how the concept is. This involves seeing, opening to see the clarity of the revelation. But if we don't see just how it is, we start to imagine how it is. And this imagination works on the basis of linking concepts together into patterns. So if we take a statement like, well, I'm just thinking my thoughts, in ordinary language that makes sense, but it's built up of quite a lot of concepts meeting together. I, there is a separate person, a person who experiences thoughts and who can claim ownership over thoughts. This is a creation. It is, such creations are illusion. An illusion is neither true nor false. When we see a rainbow, it's not true or false. We see something, colors in the sky, and we take hold of these colors with our mind by naming this is a rainbow. The rainbow arises as a gesture from the concept, the interpretive concept, rainbow, to the actuality of the color appearing in the sky. When I point up into the sky and say, oh, look, there is a rainbow, we are creating a pseudo reality. You cannot touch a rainbow. You never arrive at it. It's like the horizon. When you out walking and you see the horizon, you think, oh, there is the limit of the world. So you walk because you want to reach the end of the world, but you never arrive there. It's always vanishing. The horizon doesn't vanish to somewhere else. It doesn't go away. It's not taken in a car or an airplane. In the same way, the rainbow, when it dissolves, it doesn't go somewhere. It vanishes where it is. In the same way, the thoughts arising in our mind are suddenly here and then gone. Now, if I believe that I am the owner of here, I'm here in my body, this is where I am. I'm just sitting here, I'm not doing anything. And now a thought comes to me. It can feel that because I didn't experience it here before, now it has come to here. Now it's here, and then it's gone. But what was it? I have to try to remember. I have to try to pull the thought back into my mind. So we can experience our mind as a kind of pot or container. Thoughts, feelings, sensations come into it and they go out of it. I, myself, am the pot. I'm always here, but the thoughts come in and out of the pot. So this is the point of view of the ego self identity. I say I am a continuing presence. What sort of presence am I? I'm the presence of me. That's obvious. We all know what that means. I'm just me. And this is where we see the difference between illusion and delusion. Because the delusion is the merging of attachment and seemingly enduring identification into the illusion. The stream of concepts which are turned around the idea of I, me, myself, show a patterning of self-identifications. They don't actually establish anything because we experience so many things moment by moment. Our freedom is the absence of fixed content. We are aware of the impermanence of sensation in the body, of memories, of plans, and so on. And yet, somehow, every time this felt, every time sensations arise or ideas or memories, we are able to fuse them with the identifiers I, me, myself. So that these concepts, I, me, myself, which feel so close to me, are also used by you. And when you apply them to you, they feel very intimate for you. So I, me, myself only belongs to me through this process of identification. So in Buddhism, this is called attachment. When I say I, it's obvious I mean me. When you say I, it means you. So I itself has no fixed content. This is how our language works, because constantly these empty signs can be filled with all kinds of meanings and connotations according to how we approach them and what we want to use them for. So this self-position, which is so important in the organization of our life, is not actually something which has a true existence of itself. But we have to remember that this is follow the middle way. We can't say that the self does exist, but we also can't say it doesn't exist. I can't make a definitive statement about who I am because new contents of subjective identification are arising and passing moment by moment. But on the other hand, we can't say that I has no content at all. It's neither full nor empty, but it fills and empties without filling and emptying. So as with the traditional example of the mirror, the reflection arises instantly in the mirror. The reflection isn't put into the mirror. It's not like putting a bottle of milk into the fridge. The reflection is there and then it's gone. The reflection itself didn't come from somewhere. And when it vanishes, it doesn't go anywhere. So my sense of myself is it's like a reflection. It's a kind of representation, because there is a relation between being present and the representation of myself being who I take myself to be in this moment. But this presentation is followed by the next presentation, the next presentation. Now, normally we have the idea that representation is a representing, the bringing back again of something which has already been presented. So if you have a photocopy machine, You put the thing you want to copy inside, you press the button, the light moves up and down, and you get a representation of the document. The copy accurately represents the original. But when we experience these presentations of ourselves, what is this original form? Our original face or our original form is the form of the ground source. This face is a face which cannot be seen. This is the face as pure potential. It is the source of all the representations. So the unpresentable represents itself as an image which it is and isn't. So when you look in the mirror, you see the reflection which is and isn't the mirror. If you take a little holiday from telling yourself who you are, and you stay present with the flow of presentations of yourself, each presentation is this and this and this. When we take it from the point of view of the delusion of a consistent existing self, then we recruit or we pull in, we make use of whatever is arising as if it was just another form of me. These are my thoughts. I think my thoughts. This is how the ego cheats and lies to itself and to other people. But when we sit in a basic meditation practice, not doing anything much, we become aware all kinds of ideas are coming. I am not the thinker of my thoughts. I am the stage of the showing of the thoughts, like a theater stage. Thought after thought is moving and showing something and then vanishing. I am fresh each moment, but I want to be me. You can be me. You are me. You are me, but me is not so important. If you like, me is not the mirror. Me is a reflection in the mirror. I, me, myself, my past, my future, these are little sky flowers, little rainbows, little fireworks filling the sky and vanishing. They are present, that is to say, they're here and then gone. They're not here as something, they're here as this. What is this? Just this. If I take this, which is very thin and very fine, and add another this, and then another this, the accumulation of this gives a thickness which seems to indicate a substance. The glue that sticks these together is identification, because although we become aware that there is, if you like, a stream of consciousness, because we want to maintain the idea of ourselves as an enduring self, we are concerned to turn this stream of consciousness so that it becomes a kind of whirlpool going round and round, confirming the qualities or experience or range of my being a self. And yet, each time we look, who is the thinker? We don't find anyone. It's like over each country you have airspace, and whatever is coming in and out of this airspace is monitored not just by the Civil Aviation Authority, but by the Air Force. Because this military Air Force, they are concerned, is this some enemy coming to attack our country? If the enemy come and they explode a bomb which has no impact on the earth, we probably don't mind too much. We are concerned with the bombs that land on the city and blow up the houses and the people. In the first case, there's just a bang in the sky. In the second case, people are killed. So we are concerned when something is happening to someone. We think this is real, this is terrible. The shape of the city has been altered. The bridge has collapsed in the river. This is bad. So we perceive a new shape in the city and we attribute a quality to it. That, in this case, bad. We can feel the solidity of that. Say, this is terrible. How could they do that? They did that to us. They did that to me. How do I know it has impacted me? Because I feel upset. I feel rage. I feel fear. So the reference point is I, me, myself. But who is this I? It's me. Who is me? Me is the one who I'm telling you about. So I, me, myself become three little points which are turning around and round and round very quickly in a kind of auto hallucination. The concepts are empty and full. In this case, they fill with anger and fear. Both before they were filled with happiness. I was happy, now I'm sad. So we understand this on the basis of the image I offered you earlier, that we are like a pot or a container. So we have to investigate for ourselves, is this pot or container or image something which is true? So we look, does this mind, does this sense of self, does my identity have a clear shape? When I feel fear, I shrink inside, maybe I vibrate a bit. When I'm relaxed, I feel expansive and I seem to flow out into the environment. I may have looked in the mirror or looked at a photograph of myself, and so I know that I have a particular shape. That's an idea. That idea is present when it enters the mind, and then it's gone. The phenomena manifesting as my felt sense of my size shift according to mood and circumstance. And my mind, does it have some identifiable features? Does it have a color? We have some depressed moods we might call feeling blue. You might associate red with anger and also with desire. Does the mind actually become red? Red might show in your mind, but then it's gone. So when we try to find the defining characteristics of the mind, it's very difficult. Nothing can be established. The mind is not a thing. However, our ego self is a construct. It is compounded or composed by bringing together thoughts, memories, feelings, sensations, being organized and then reorganized and reorganized according to circumstances. That is to say, our ego self, our individual ego self, is illusion. You can't say it's nothing at all because here I am. You can't say here I am and I'm always like this because how I am is changing. That is to say, our ego self is a formation of the pattern of the energy of the ground, which is not recognized as being a pattern of the energy of the ground. The ground is not a thing. Beyond thought, it's not something you can find. Who am I? When we ask this question, we want to be something, somewhere, someone. And then we think and talk and feel ourselves into existence, not a real existence, but an illusory existence taken to be real so that it's a delusion. I, this empty signifier, is the creator of my identity, creating this identity out of thoughts, memories, feelings, which are already always vanishing. So it's like being out in nature, maybe in summertime, and seeing a long, slow sunset with color change after color change after color change. If you're there with someone, you might say, hey, look at that red, it's amazing. But even as you look at it, it's gone. It's undeniable that it was there, and it's gone. Its appearing is undeniable, and its vanishing is undeniable. This is how we are. It's undeniable that we are manifesting, that we are arising a whole stream of different experiences, but we vanish, ceaselessly vanishing. This vanishing in its simplicity leaves no trace. But because we are caught up in the energy of attachment, because we are the energy system of the body, instead of it flowing out in a relaxed, free way, it becomes tense. And so there is a movement of energy seemingly across from one thought structure to another. In the old days with the railways, when they had the big marshalling yards where they had many, many trains and wagons being prepared for journeys. Before the wagons got linked together with this kind of chain and hook, if you had a series of wagons lined up, you could take the engine and hit the first one, and then it will go pop, 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 and each wagon would hit the next one and the next, and so there would be some movement along. So in this kind of loose shunting, the carriages remain separate, and yet somehow their energy is moving through them. In the same way, when a thought is arising in our mind, when we have an investment in that thought, as that thought is dissolving, it is as if it gives a blow to the next arising thought, and it becomes energized, and vanishing, hit, vanishing, hit. And so you get a stream of activated ideas, none of which is actually joined together, but it is as if they are in a formation. So I and the translators have been talking for quite some time, and you have experienced words appearing and vanishing, appearing and vanishing. When you hear these words, some pattern of response arises in you, maybe bored or excited or think you've heard it all before. And each of these moments of experience dissolves and dissolves and dissolves. When we finish this evening, it's finished. Of course, with the blessing of Zoom, we can listen to it again. Who will listen to it again? I will listen to it again. But will you be the same I? Your mood will be different, different day, different time of day, before eating, after eating, whatever. You will not be the same. The illusion of repetition disguises us to the freshness of each moment. Everything is included in the mind itself. But because the mind itself is not a thing, it's not like having money in your wallet. Thoughts come and go. What will I do with them? It doesn't matter. You try to pull the ideas together. Maybe if you're in college and you have to write an essay, you have to shape what you're writing in order to convince the teacher that you've been studying and you've learned something. In the moment of writing, you're in this sentence and it feels meaningful. At the end of that sentence, you put in your full stop and you start the next sentence. If the first sentence was filling your mind, how would you write the second sentence? When you look at the essay, maybe 10 pages of writing, I did this. Looks like something. You give it to the teacher, and the teacher's eye goes along the line and along the line and along the line. Word after word after word, sentence after sentence. Whether you are writing it or the teacher is reading it, the essay is flow. The pile of pages on the paper is potential. It reveals itself through the reader's participation, which is dynamic, And the flow of the mind allows the flow of the words to awaken from the page and then vanish back onto the page. Now, when you read, there are these little black marks on the page, sleeping. They don't move in their sleep. They're really quite dead. Your eye and the bright energy of your intelligence awakens them. And then your mind moves on and they go back to sleep. They were born into your mind, but without being born. Because what arose in your mind was an empty, illusory form. If you read a novel, you read about characters doing different kinds of things, maybe friendly, unfriendly, and so on. What has happened? Nothing. A lot has happened, but it's illusion. When you go to work in the morning, you move things around, you talk to people, you type out something. What has been achieved? Apart from a progression towards death, nothing at all. You wrote 5 pages, but this 5 pages is unborn until someone reads it. Nothing is done. It appears as if something is done. This is why we use the image of the mirror so much. You see something in the mirror, but there's nothing in the mirror. The somethingness of the reflection is simultaneously nothing. Everything you did today is something and nothing. You can't say it was really something because the morning has gone, the afternoon has gone, you're not at work. All of that has vanished. But at the same time, you can't say, oh, it wasn't something because you're tired and you remember, oh, I did this and this and this. Now, this is very interesting because when you say in the morning, I was in a meeting, it lasted an hour. What are you talking about? The morning has vanished. The people in the meeting have all dispersed in different directions. If the police want to interview you about the meeting, they have to collect evidence. They can't go to the meeting to check out whether what you said is true. The police are expert in picking up traces, use cigarette butts, DNA traces, hairs, and footprints, and so on. And they put all these little remnants together to build up their own picture. They recreate what might have happened in the meeting. They need to be good at imagining. Then they present their imagining to the prosecutor. And in the court, the prosecutor presents to the judge their double intensified imagining of what happened in that meeting. And the judge, on the basis of imagining all the things that they imagine they did in the past and all the law books they studied, they come to a conclusion. And the judge makes a decision. And that kind of decision we generally accept as the truth. Because if we can't trust the courts, then social life becomes difficult. The court has established the truth. The court has created the truth, a truth we can all believe in. So, what is the truthfulness of such truth? Generally in Buddhism, we call it relative truth. It is constructed and built up. However, in the process of building it up, many different options, many pathways are opened, and we have to choose. Was it like this or was it like that? This truth is valid inside the axioms and acceptances of our particular cultures. But actually, all the phenomena of what happened in the meeting in the morning are gone. The courts deal with echoes reconstructed as if they were original sound. The sound itself has gone into silence. So this is the direct truth of our life. Everything is vanishing. I also am vanishing. Vanishing becomes scary if I think, well, I'm still here, but my God, everything is vanishing all around me. Don't worry, you're also vanishing. Self and world, inside and outside, vanishing. But not finally vanishing, because here, This is the main teaching of the Buddha. This is the avoiding the extremes of eternalism or annihilationism. This moment vanishes. It's not eternal. But after this moment, there's this moment, and then there's this moment. So there is always this moment. In fact, of course, this moment is all we have. In its simple form, this moment shows itself as sound and colors and illumination, the clear light that connects our eyes to what is visible. But inside that also come memories, thoughts, and so on. Each of these is movement. So this is something very important for meditators to focus on. We know that sound is vibration. Light also is a vibration. We know that the different colors have a different frequencies of vibration. That's part of their how they communicate. But feelings are also vibration. They set up a particular pulsations inside us, whether it's fear, anxiety, joy, sexual excitement. These are all forms of vibration. Thoughts also are like vibration. They're just some pulsation moving through the space of the mind. This is appearance and emptiness. When something is appearing, it's our habit is to split the field into subject and object. I am aware that I see this. But actually, in that moment, the concept of I am seeing this and what is seen arise together. Now, when we see before we conceptualize, there is the raw or naked or uncooked display of sound and color. This is clarity. So this is like a thin soup, like a consomme. But then you can add something into the soup to thicken it. You can mash some potato and stir it around in your thin soup. Now the soup has become opaque. Before it was translucent. So the thought or the feeling which is arising, when it is brought together with the clarity as if they were two things, then you get this opacity of the world of definite objects. But as we already looked, the thought is vanishing. So when we sit in our meditation practice and we relax and release and we just open to whatever is occurring, arising, vanishing, arising, vanishing. This is seamless. There's no stitching. It's not that this moment is then stitched onto that moment. Just as when you look in the mirror, you get this reflection, a whole series of reflections, but they're not layered one on top of the other. They're not stitched together. So there is no substance in these thoughts. But under the power of delusion, that is to say, not recognizing the open ground, the infinite emptiness within which this unborn display occurs, I imagine substances and entities. Two very fine, gossamer, thin arisings which are already vanishing, when placed together with this glue of belief, become opaque. Now, how this functions is like this. The ego self, which as we looked, is simply a patterning of the display of the energy of the ground. When this is not recognized and we feel ourselves to be someone, this belief blinds us to the openness of our own ground. And so in feeling myself to be real, I bend the truth of my experience that in fact everything is vanishing to convince myself that there is some enduring essence. And this not seeing of my own source permits me to fantasize all kinds of imagined identities which support a wide range of behaviors. For example, a woman has a baby. It's a boy. The, the mother looks at the baby. Oh, my darling baby boy. Your skin is so sweet. You smell so lovely. Your eyes are so bright. And as the months go by, then the years, the mother watches her boy growing up. This is my son. But when the boy is 18, he's working on the farm. He's a good boy. He does everything required. But the country has gone to war. The boy gets a uniform. He comes to see his mother. She says, well, remember all the things I told you. Be a good boy. The young boy soldier goes to the camp. He gets some training. He practices using his bayonet, sticking it into bags of straw. But then he goes into battle. Now he's sticking the bayonet into living creatures. He hears their screams. He sees the fear in their eyes. At first, he is very shocked. But gradually, when he sees his own colleagues being killed, he starts to feel very happy when he kills the enemy. And in the heat of battle, if they capture one of the enemy, they start to beat them up and hit them with their rifle. Then this young soldier goes home for a holiday for a week. If he tells his mother what he has been doing, how will she be? My sweet young boy, you are now a cruel killer. You have become heartless. The way you live is not a way I recognize. You are my son, but how can you be my son when you do this? So this is our story. We are from the ground. We have come from the unborn mother, the great mother emptiness. But in the struggle to survive in the world, we end up doing many things which are not good. Our great mother, Prajnaparamita, the mother of all the Buddhas, emptiness herself, she would say, when I gave you life inside my womb, my infinite womb that you have never left, you are so light and bright and free. And now you are so dull and stupid and heavy. I hear you saying, I'm just myself. You don't see my tears. How could you ignore your own mother? Wandering around in ignorance, imagining that you are this autonomous great hero. Come home, please come home. Oh, it's like that for us. But we don't know where our home is. This is why we have the transmission and the lineage. When we grow up in our families and go to school and work out how to earn some money, we feel more and more, I am me, I'm surviving in the world, I can stand on my own feet. People say, oh, you've done well, you got a good job, now you can afford a motor car and a nice flat. Now you're really someone. But how terrible is this? You are neither someone nor no one. We are the non-duality of form and emptiness, of appearance and emptiness, the non-duality of clarity and emptiness, awareness and emptiness, joy and emptiness. Our true presence is always both and. We are both present and empty at the same time. We are the presence of emptiness, which is empty presence. But the ego says, no, I am myself. I am different. I am apart. I am not like you. So in the general Buddhist teachings, we read again and again, may all sentient beings be happy. All sentient beings want to find happiness, but how they behave brings them only suffering. We read these things and reflect on them in order to become more inclusive, so that we are not just concerned with the people in our family or the people who support our local football team. or the people who speak our language, or even the sentient beings who are not people. We say all creatures who have a mind, may they be happy. All the teachings of Dharma go in the same direction of expanding our sense of belonging, expanding our sense of presence, so that we can free ourselves from narrow, exclusive identities. So in general Buddhism, we start from the position that we are human beings, a subset of sentient beings, and that we exist and we need to get enlightened. So we seek to expand our area of inclusion, as if we were stretching out the basis of our identity. Now, this is an activity that we activate in the face of our habits of being self-centered, putting ourselves first. And we often find that the more we try to expand our vision and be compassionate and inclusive, we find a reaction arising in ourselves where we are selfish, or we don't act really for the benefit of others. Then we might feel we've done something wrong. We haven't been kind, we haven't been generous. So we have to do something to purify ourselves. I am not as generous as I would like to be. I'm not as kind as I would like to be. Or now I'm living in a conflict between my idea of how I should be and my interpretation of how I am. Now, this is not the view in Dzogchen, but it's important to be aware of it. The reason it's important to be aware of it is because if you say, oh, I practice Dzogchen, that doesn't mean that your mind is resting in the openness of Dzogchen itself. Only when the mind is at ease and settled and in itself and open without effort are we free of the dualism of subject and object. If you are not in duality, then your activity is likely to be generating karmic consequences. The basis for karmic generation is the action of the subject on the object, which could be another subject, with a particular intention. So, general Buddhism is like the kind of safety net we want to fall onto if we fall out of the pure view of Dzogchen. But our main focus is to inhabit, to abide within the integrity of all that is arising with its own ground. The mind is open and empty. The mind does not exist. It is described as being unborn. It hasn't come into existence as something, but this doesn't mean that it's nothing at all. When we look for our mind, we don't find anything. But the very act of looking for the mind is the energy of the mind. The empty mind is constantly displaying the energy of the movement, which we take to be mountains and motor cars and loaves of bread and so on. The empty aspect of the mind is called the Dharmakaya. It means that this is the mode, or the it's not really a quality, but it's just it's really beyond language to say, but we might say it's the aspect of the mind which is nothing. Nothing means here infinite potential. So when you look around your room, you see various things, cups for drinking out of, maybe some books, paper, shoes, and so on. Each of these appearances is stabilized by the confidence that you have to apply an identifying concept onto the appearance. But you could use the shoes to hammer a nail into the wall. You might decide that your nose is too sharp and you hit it with the shoe to flatten it out. You might be very hungry, so you boil your shoe to make some soup. There are many things you can do with shoes, which are not contained inside our habitual concept of shoe. So it's a very helpful thing when to examine all your possessions and think of other uses you could have for them. If you get a plastic bag from the supermarket, this is a very reasonable way to kill yourself. You put it over your head and you tie it very tight, and then you die. It's amazing. You go to the supermarket, you buy your potatoes and some more vegetables and fruit, and they give you a free suicide kit. In this way, you have to allow your imagination to see the multiple purposes of all the phenomena you know. So even with that degree of opening to creativity, if you imagine that how you can think of the function of the shoe is determined by the constriction of knowing, but it's a shoe. So my conviction that it's a shoe collapses the creativity that could imagine it having multiple functions. The concept of the shoe is a kind of anchor or restriction on the imagination. Just as sometimes people take a cow into a field with a rope and stick a peg in the ground so the cow can only eat so much of the grass. So when you are convinced these are my shoes, you tie your mind on a rope so it can just walk around the shoe. And of course, we apply this to ourselves. I know this about me and this about me and this about me. And so we have these defining concepts, and they become the peg and the rope, and our sense of self just keeps walking around and round. But if you don't peg the cow, it can wander all over the field. And if there's no fence on the edge of the field, it can go in the next field and the next field. Oh, so this is the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is not pegged anywhere. It's not located in a particular place, so it doesn't take up a position of inside or outside or my party or your party. The movement of the potential of the Dharmakaya is not restricted by any defining identification. And so what arises from the Dharmakaya as the initial display of fresh experience is this moment of display. This is clarity. We see this term a lot in the Dzogchen text, salwa or rangsal. The intrinsic clarity of appearance is the fact that it's not the appearance of something. It's the appearance of emptiness appearing like this, then gone. It's not a copy of anything else. It's just this. What is this? Just this? Oh, come on, but what is it? It's just this. So in that moment, we can see although we may wish to open and to relax and to be light and free, we have this urge also to consolidate, to make firm, to make stable, to make predictable. This is what we experience in the practice. When this arises in the mind, when you find yourself going off in little journeys of conceptual elaboration and memories and plans and all kinds of weaving of thoughts and feelings into some kind of sense of things being real, where do these thoughts come from? Now you've become a soldier and you forgot your mama. Now you're taking care of your colleague soldiers and you're trying to kill the enemy soldiers. Hopes and fears, winning and losing. Remember the source. Awareness and unawareness have the same ground. That ground is emptiness. Emptiness is free of bias. It's neutral, even in tone. Awareness in connection with the Dharmakaya is just open and aware. It's not tilted towards the good and away from the bad. It's uninvolved with either. Just as the mirror shows beautiful images and ugly images, Dharmakaya is just open, and in this space, anything can arise. However, whatever arises is already vanishing, because the empty sky shows empty forms. So when you see the ground, the source, and you can see it simply by sitting open and being present, image after image, experience after experience arising, this is arising in the mind. It is the showing of the mind. Thoughts don't come out of the mind and then go back into it. Nothing comes out of the mind. Trees, rivers, oceans are all in the mind, because all we know of them is experience. Even if you do some mathematical study of the movement of the tides, and you have page after page of mathematical formulae, and you think, oh, this very helpful scientific paper was written by my colleague. I'm very grateful for this. Who is this colleague? Oh, this is John. That's a name. He has 2 arms, 2 legs. This is a familiar pattern of the 5 elements. What is the defining truth of John? He is a scientist, but he likes golf. He's a golfing scientist, or a scientist who plays golf. When John is playing golf, he talks about golf. And when he's in the laboratory, he talks about science. So sometimes he's a scientist and sometimes he's a golfer. But what is he really? He's not really anything. He is not real. He is the site of the manifestation of a certain section of the potential of the ground. He has not strayed from the ground. Although he is brilliant at mathematics, which is a quality of the ground, he believes that it's because he did his homework at school and went to university and studied very hard that he is a mathematician. I am only here because I have worked hard. So you did reading and writing. Who did the reading? I. How did you do the reading? I looked at the paper and I let one word come in through my eye and then go out again. Then the next word and the next one. I wrapped words in through my eyes. Woo, 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 woo. So you spent most of your life dancing with words. And where are all these words now? Oh, they are sleeping in my books. Can you wake them up? Yes, but I have to be there. Subject and object playing together. This is within the Dharmakaya. Again and again, we sit in the practice and thoughts arise, feelings, pain in our back, remembering what we need to do tomorrow. All kinds of experiences arise. So the instruction is don't enter into what is arising, and don't stand apart from what is arising, looking at it, but stay present on the arising as it occurs. What is arising through you, as if you are the mirror and every occurrence is a reflection just arising and vanishing within this infinite mirror mind. This awareness is not a thing. You can't get it. You can't keep it. It just is. By relaxing into what is, through not fabricating, through not making something, you are the space of illumination within which instant presence or effortlessly arising appearance is here and then here and here, coming, 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 going, 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 but not coming from somewhere and not going somewhere. So the basic principles are very straightforward. Don't separate self from other, inside from outside. Be aware of what is arising, but don't think about it as the appearance of entities. The thickening of pure appearance into solid entities is the work of your own conceptual energy. This conceptual energy is just a vibration occurring in the space of the mind. As in the traditional example, if you take a stick at night from a fire and turn it around your head, you see a circle of fire. Nothing is there, but there is a circle of fire as an illusion created by the moving hot point. In the same way, it's the rapidity of the movement of thought, feeling, and sensation joined with your intensity of identification, which creates your felt sense of the solidity of phenomena. So don't try so hard. Meditation is not something you do. Meditation is a way of simply opening to how you are, how life is, how the mind is, how the source is. You're just here. Experience is moving. At first, if you're beginning, you feel that part of being here is being here in your body. My thoughts are moving, sensations moving, but I'm here. Don't be seduced by this. You don't reject the thought. It's not a bad thought you have to get rid of, but don't merge into it and believe it. Stay with openness. The thought arises and is trying to hook you. It's not trying to hook you, but it's available for hooking you if you are available to be hooked. The hooked arising memory and the hooking sense of self are both movements of the energy of the mind. The mind itself never moves. Don't fall onto the subject side. Don't become obsessed with the object side. The duality of subject and object is revealed as non-dual when the mind doesn't move. So happiness occurs, then it's gone. The sense I am happy is here and then gone. So in the text we see again and again, whatever comes, comes, whatever goes, goes. This doesn't mean whatever comes to me comes and then it goes, but I'm still here. This self is also coming and going. Object is here and gone. Subject is here and gone. Who am I if I'm not the subject? You are awareness. This unborn awareness has access to infinite potential. If you identify with a movement of the subject formation, immediately your potential is diminished. Your frame of reference is I, me, myself. So if you remain relaxed as awareness, the energy of awareness can manifest in many different forms. Then we see that we are sky flowers. We are the ceaseless flow of the manifestation of unborn energy. Every posture, every gesture, tone of voice, kind of conversation, things you eat, everything is moving, moving, moving. It never solidifies. So the integral display of the ground never ends. And although we, in fact, are part of this integral, unending display of the ground, despite this, our time together has come to an end. It never ends, but now we end. So I would like to thank our translators, Bartek for Polish, Jayachita for German, Milton for Portuguese. And thank you all for your focused attention, because what we looked at tonight is not so easy to follow. Although it can sound quite dense, it's simply the play of empty sound. So we have to keep it light. And I will think about some dates for the new year when we can meet together again. So have a very good evening, and have a good holiday time if that is what you do. So goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, James.
Bye.
James.
Christmas.
James,
Thank you.
New Year.
Obrigado.
Bye, James.
Bye, 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 bye.
Obrigado.
Bye.
Bye, James.
Take your left.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye,
Obrigado,
bye.
James.
Bye.